Once upon a time, there was a farmer who had a flock of chickens. The farmer decided to start training his chickens to respond to the sound of the food tin shaking with grains inside. At first, the farmer would only make the sound at feeding time, just before he put the food in the tin. He made sure the chickens could hear the sound clearly and repeated it every day. The chickens quickly learned to associate the sound with the arrival of food, and would eagerly gather around the food tin when they heard the sound. After a few days, the farmer began making the sound at random times throughout the day. It took a little longer, but eventually, the chickens began to associate the sound with the arrival of food, even when it wasn't feeding time. As the chickens started to respond to the sound by getting excited and gathering around the food tin, the farmer began to gradually increase the amount of time between making the sound and putting the food in the tin. This was to help the chickens learn to associate the sound itself with the arrival of food, rather than just with the act of feeding. Over time, the farmer continued to make the sound consistently and gradually reduced the amount of food he put in the tin. The chickens continued to respond eagerly to the sound, even when there was only a small amount of food in the tin. The farmer was delighted with the success of his training, and feeding time became much easier and more enjoyable for both him and his chickens. Thanks to the farmer's patience and consistency, the chickens learned to respond to the sound of their food tin shaking with grains inside, and the farmer could easily feed his flock with a simple clanging of a spoon on the tin. Now, before we end this video, these are the training steps. Training chickens to respond to the sound of their food tin shaking with grains inside can be done using a few simple steps. 1. Choose a specific sound that you will use to signal to the chickens that it's feeding time. This could be the sound of a metal spoon tapping on the food tin, or a specific whistle. 2. Start by making the chosen sound at feeding time, just before you put food in the tin. Make sure the chickens can hear the sound clearly. 3. After a few days of making the sound at feeding time, start making the sound at random times throughout the day. This will help the chickens associate the sound with the arrival of food, rather than just with feeding time. 4. When the chickens start to respond to the sound by getting excited and gathering around the food tin, start to gradually increase the amount of time between making the sound and putting food in the tin. This will help the chickens learn to associate the sound itself with the arrival of food, rather than just with the actual act of feeding. 5. Continue to make the sound consistently and gradually reduce the amount of food you put in the tin. Don't forget to subscribe, click on the notification bell and leave a comment so I can comment you back. Have a glorious day, and see you in the next video.